we'll go with it. Hey guys, just join me. It's Stefan Mustemis. We're talking about something pretty interesting today. Just to introduce myself, my name is Dr. Maya Byfield. I received my bachelor's degree from biology from Oakwood College, now University, and then I did my PhD in molecular pharmacology at Albert Einstein College of Medicine. And I have with me Christopher Phelps. Chris is a mechanical engineer. He got his bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from North Carolina A&T. He says the #1 HBCU in the country. That's what he says.
Definitely. Aggie pride.
I beg to differ. And then he went to Drexel University in Philadelphia and received his master's in business administration with an emphasis in finance. He is a senior superintendent at one of the major construction companies down south in Miami, and he is a businessman. I decided to talk to some scholars. Unfortunately, KJ couldn't make it today, so it was just me and you, Chris. But I did want to talk about the Revolt Summit last night. I wanted to talk about the Revolt Summit last night and basically talk about, discuss with you your viewpoint in what happened. So my first question is, what did you think overall about the summit?
I'm going to be honest with you, Maya. First off, thank you, Dr. Byfield. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for reaching out to me. I love what you're doing with the Phenomenal STEMist. It's amazing. In regards to the Black Summit, I'm going to be real with you. I didn't think it was that great. In general, I'm not going to say it was trash, but you had Black people basically trying to defend Donald Trump, defending the KKK in Charlottesville. You had Katrina Pearson, I think her name is Candace Owens or whatever her name is, basically saying that what Trump said was not racist, but he was saying the KKK has good people. I thought that was completely ridiculous. On top of that, I'm an honest guy. I'll be completely upfront. If white Americans were having an economic forum on the empowerment for white people, for white Americans, they would not be inviting Tim McGraw or country music singers or rock and roll people basically talk about where their race is going to go in the next generation. I could not believe it that where were the scholars? Where were the scholars? Where were the entrepreneurs? Why wasn't Dr. Boyce Watkins there? Why wasn't Cornel West there? Why wasn't Magic? Why weren't entrepreneurs like Tyler Perry there? Why weren't entrepreneurs like Magic Johnson there? Why weren't entrepreneurs like local business owners there? I'm honestly tired as an African American who is pretty educated. Why is it that whenever they want to get our perspective on stuff, they want to interview rappers or reform strippers or inmates and stuff like that? And I like T.I. and I like Killer Mike, and they said some good things, but in general, if you want to find out where the Black race is going, stop talking to entertainers. They have their place, but that's not to me where that's not where it should be, I guess.
Yeah, I mean in my opinion, that I'm with you, and I'm not trying to sound elitist either. You know, I'm not. I pray that people don't take us out of context and feel like, oh, you think only people who are educated can speak on the matter. I'm just saying I am also tired of seeing, what's up, Don? How you doing? I'm tired of seeing the Black perspective being spoken out only through the guise of entertainment. Because a lot of the times, if you look at the language, and I'm not even, it's not even just the profanity that bothered me. It was just, it just seemed like a lot of yelling, a lot of cursing at one another, a lot of just ignorance being spoken, and it was like cool. Everybody was dressed all kind of way. It just didn't look like how it would have looked in the 60s. You know, I feel like Dr. Martin Luther King and others, scholars of the time, got together to help set an agenda for our community, and I feel like the scholars were missing. I agree with you too. You know, these Republicans. It's funny. You know, my friend told me that he called me about 20 years ago, and he told me that he thinks he's leaning Republican, and I screamed on him. I'm like, really? And I told him I probably wouldn't scream on you now, at least not personally. but I don't get the concept of being a Black Republican. I'm sure people are. They have the right to be so. But to defend Donald Trump, because Candace Owens, she did have some things to say, and I like what Killer Mike said. A lot of things she was saying, Farrakhan was saying, you know, things like the reading rates are terrible, you know, like a lot of things she was saying, we say. But then the problem is she would go back and say, and so this man is the answer to our problem. White supremacy is the answer to the problem. Why do you think entertainers have more voice than scholars? You had a problem with it. Why do you think entertainers have more of a voice than scholars?
Well, just to piggyback off of what you were saying, Maya, about Katrina Pearson and Candace Owens, and even Killer Mike to some extent. I'm an engineer, you're an engineer. You're a business owner, I'm a business owner. Some of my businesses deal with engineering, some businesses do not deal with engineering. If you take one thing that really bothered me as well about that, before I answer your question, is that if you take a look at science, technology, engineering, math, healthcare, and finance, those 6 degrees, people who had young Black men who did not have a college education, or young Black men who basically, in the height of the Great Recession, 2007, 2009, end of the Bush years and the beginning of the Obama years, the unemployment rate amongst inner city kids was about 19%. If you do not have a degree in science, technology, engineering, math, or healthcare. Those of us who did have degrees in science, technology, engineering, or healthcare, I'm not going to ask you your age, Maya, but you may be a little younger than me.
But, no, I'm older than you.
Yeah, a little younger.
Okay.
I know you're 22, going 23. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. But as far as the STEM majors, though, people who had STEM degrees, our unemployment rate in 2007 was 5%. Our unemployment rate in 2009 was like 4.5%. The unemployment rate for people who did not have a STEM degree was like 19%. So basically, STEM jobs, STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, and I would throw healthcare and finance into that as well. Those are building blocks for any community. And one thing that really bothered me about that summit was that no one was talking about the STEM fields. No one was talking about why aren't more Black kids basically going into engineering, science, technology, or math. And if you want to basically have a forum on basically how to build a community, you basically need to talk about entrepreneurship and getting college degrees that are applicable to the 21st century. And no disrespect to my no disrespect to my psychology majors out there, and the other individuals who don't go into technical fields. But if you get a degree in science, technology, engineering, math, or healthcare, you are most likely going to have a job. More importantly, if you start a business in those fields, you most likely are going to have a great business, because those are the jobs of the 21st century. And nobody said that on the stage. And Candace Owens didn't say that either, and that bothered me a lot.
Well, I mean, they probably don't have the expertise to say it, and because they don't know. I really don't think a lot of them know these things. So what is it about our community that attracts that? I think P. Diddy, first of all, P. Diddy's an entertainer. Shout out to him for even creating a forum. So I'm not even, good for him for creating this forum. There are a lot of us who don't have the ability to do that, don't have the expertise to do that. So shout out to Sean Combs as the businessman that he is. I feel like he felt that to get the butts in the seats, he has to get rappers. So I think it's an indictment on us as a community more so than on them. Why is it? Why do why are entertainers more?
I think it's a few reasons, Maya. First off, I think as a well-educated Black guy and as an extremely well-educated Black woman, you have a PhD, I have a master's degree. We have to do a better job, in my opinion, of being available to the hood. I can't speak for, I know me, for instance, whatever. I grew up in environments where I had guys that trying to get me to sell drugs. I was recruited to join the gang when I was 9 years old. I've seen people get shot in front of me. I've seen cops get shot in front of me. So I grew up in that type of environment. And the first thing they told you if you're Black, when you go to college is what? Get a job, move out of the hood, and then basically live in the suburbs. I'm not gonna say live around the white folks, but live around the suburbs. And I'm not saying that there are some benefits to that as far as buying property and things like that. But our entire mindset as Black professionals is to move out of the environments that basically made us. And I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing. For instance, integration, which I think is great for, I think integration had a lot of good things. But one bad part about integration, in my opinion, was that it took the Black police officers out of the neighborhoods. It took the Black barbers, the Black carpenters, the Black electricians, the Black scientists, the Black doctors out of the neighborhoods. So we have an environment where all kids see are crackheads, prostitutes, strippers, drug dealers, and gangbangers. What do you think they're going to be?
Right.
So
what do you think they're going to aspire to?
A mistake.
Yeah.
I would say a mistake that we're making as Black scholars is that we don't have a presence in the inner cities. How many of us coach Little League basketball or Little League football or coach baseball or basically go to these hood red cup parties? I mean, I'm not saying you need to be a part of that. I'm not saying you need to do what necessarily all the negative things that get done in that environment. But we don't have a place, I think, in the inner cities anymore the way that we used to, and that to me is an indictment on us.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first way I'll answer. Kids, they'll basically will be what they see. Secondly, let's be real. The media loves pushing a certain image. If you're a Black guy and you're in the media, they want you to be a thug. They want you to be effeminate. They want you to sell drugs. They want you to be a rapper. They want you to be an athlete. I've played sports my whole life. I've been a valedictorian. I'm an extremely educated guy, but I can tell you this: when I walk in a room, the first thing people ask me is, "Can I dance and can I play sports?"
Right.
That's just what that it is.
Yeah.
It's like if you're a Black male, there's a certain image that the media tries to portray you to be, and if you quote unquote fit whatever that description is, that's what the media pushes. And I think the reason they do that is because if you can get kids to think that it's cool to sell drugs, cool to basically pimp as many women as you possibly can, cool to be a stripper, cool to have multiple baby daddies, and you basically push that mindset, that's what kids want to be. So it's a lot of factors, I would say, Maya.
Yeah, that's true. One of the main factors, I think about Martin Luther King and Medgar Evers and all these brothers. He wasn't the only scholar. Like many of the elite scholars of Martin Luther King's time thought he was an idiot for taking on the civil rights movement. He could have made it in Atlanta and big in Atlanta. He chose to leave the elite infrastructure of Atlanta and go to Alabama to start this movement. It took a lot of sacrifice. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice for scholars to leave what they can have to do everything that you're saying. I mean, think about it. Martin Luther King died at the age of 39. He did not reach his 40th birthday. I'm sure Coretta did not sign up. She was an educated woman as well. They could have lived the life in Atlanta. Trust me, his father was rich. I mean, was well known. They could have lived a life. It took extreme sacrifice. And I personally feel if scholars are going to want to take over the hood, bring back the hood, if we want more than rappers to have to promote the agenda, then we're going to have to make some sacrifices.
I agree. Also, too, Maya, I know you're not doing this. I know I'm not doing this. I do think art has its place.
Yes.
There's a saying that says, I study war so my son can study engineering. My son studies engineering so my grandson can study art. Rap is art. I mean, you got your trap, which is you got your trap, you got your G-funk, you got your different types of rap, you get different types of music. So rappers have their place. T.I., if you actually look at what some of that guy has done, some things he's doing in Atlanta, the brother really truly is moving weight.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with everything Killer Mike said, but he definitely said some things that are cool. Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace, Nip. He basically got killed doing what we're talking about. He built businesses in the inner cities, and a dude who didn't like him just shot him in front of his wife and in front of one of his businesses in the hood. So I don't want to say that rappers aren't basically pushing what they need to push, and I'm not saying that they don't have their place in society, but I think that as Black professionals, we need to basically say, okay, cool, we're starting businesses in the hood too. We're basically doing what we can. We're basically mentoring young Black minds that basically want to go into become a doctor, become the next Dr. Maya Biafo, become the next mechanical engineer. So rap has its place, but I think that right now it's skewed way too much to one side as far as, okay, if you want to be successful, you have to slang dope or have a wicked jump shot, and that's not the way. It's not the way that was supposed to be.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. All right. So next question. Was Killer Mike right? Hey, Nikisha, what's up? Was Killer Mike right? Are we fighting over the same massa?
I would say heck no. I'm not gonna cuss on your I'm not gonna cuss on your page. But no, I definitely don't think he was right. This is what I always kind of say about that. Right now we have a guy in the office, right? In 45. This dude called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He let the island of Puerto Rico, which are Americans, by the way, he let them drown. He calls NFL players who basically were kneeling sons of bitches. He basically called people from Jamaica, Haiti, you could throw Dominican Republic in there. He called it shithole countries. that's the Republican Party. And this is the same guy that's defending, who basically is defending, who defended the KKK in Charlottesville. And if we want to go a little deeper, right now, Katrina Pearson said that she's praising him for his First Steps Act. And if you're not familiar with that act is, what it's done basically is kind of changed the sentencing or whatever for incarcerate for people with felons. So right now, about 3,000 black men are coming home because of that bill. So it sounds pretty cool when you really look at the very beginning. The problem is this though, right now that bill costs $75 million per year. Donald Trump funded it 1 year. He funded it this year. Next year, he's only going to put $14 million to it in 2020. And in 2021, he hasn't allocated 1 penny to basically that bill. So his quote unquote first act bill, basically he's underfunding it massively. Secondly, if you take a look at what he did with the Blue Lives Matter, the Blue Lives Laws Matter bills or whatever, he basically completely did away with all of the progress he made during the Obama years or whatever as far as mass incarceration. He brought back all the 1990s Clinton laws. So as a result, hundreds of thousands of young black men can basically be incarcerated for like 20 or 30 years for basically having less than a dime bag on them. So on one end, it looks like Trump is doing something for mass incarceration because he freed 3,000 black men this year. But he basically has passed laws to incarcerate hundreds of thousands of black men for the same type of stuff that sent T out of jail. So my thing is this, as blacks, we gotta wake up. I'm not saying the Democratic Party is perfect. I mean, if you really look at some of the things Democrats have done, they could have done more on a lot of different factors. But one thing I always tell my black Republicans is this: name one position that the modern day Republican Party has that is superior to the Democratic Party when it comes to communities of color. Is it voting rights? Is it immigration reform? Is it creating jobs? Is it helping the economy? Is it school funding? Is it police brutality? Is it immigration reform? Is it marijuana sentencing? Name one position that the modern day Republican Party has, besides taxes, that is actually beneficial to rich people when it comes to communities of color. And I honestly can't think of one. So while I do think that Killer Mike, I see where his point as far as saying which quote unquote master you're going to serve, I don't agree with that, because when you fundamentally look at both parties, the Democratic Party right now, their positions on most things that matter to communities of color are superior.
I agree. They're superior as comparison. They have both flaws, but you know, I'm a Democratic. I wouldn't say I'm blue. I wouldn't say I'm liberal. I'm a Democrat. I'm not an independent. Like, I'm registered as a Democrat. I vote all the way down the ticket. But I think there's some liberal agendas that I totally disagree with. And so in that, I just ignore. You know, I don't make it a part of my, you know, voting act or whatever. Do I think that they're fighting over the same massa? I do think that white supremacy is dominant in this country. And I think on both sides there is sprinklings of it. A classic example is when Barack Obama was running, he won. He had 60-40 his first year. Remember that? He had 60 people in the Senate, and there was these blue dogs. Evan Bayh, I will never forget that, Bama. He's the one that got rid of the public option. It was Democrats. We had a 60-40. If we had if we acted like Republicans, everything that we wanted, we would have the first 4 years of Barack Obama, or at least the first 2 years of it was these blue dogs.
And it was Blanche Lincoln that got rid of the immigration reform at the end of 2010. A lady out of, I think, Louisiana. So yeah, out of Arkansas. I'm sorry, Democrats.
There's some white supremacist Democrats for sure. And so white supremacy is dominant in this country. But like you said, I don't think there's a comparison between Democrats and Republicans. Like, it's diverse in terms of color, race, women. You look at the aides and the actual senators and congressmen on the Republican side. It's purely pretty much white people and mostly white men. If you go over to the Democrats, it's a mixture. It is a mixture of women, men, and all colors and races and religions. It's not the same. I don't think it's the same. All right. Last question. What is your 10-point plan? So Killer Mike was talking about a 10-point plan. He was like, okay, with Candace Owens, you know, she had some good points about reading and such and such. And T.I. had good points as well in terms of entrepreneurship and business. and he was basically saying, y'all keep fighting over who's the best master. Why don't you take pieces of everybody, which you all agree on, and make a 10-point agenda for the Black community instead of choosing who's better. And I thought that part of his point was correct. So here's my 10-point agenda. I don't know about yours, but my 10-point agenda is it's not in any order. It's not in any order,
I got you.
But education funding. We need to rid this disparity of education in our communities, where majority of the people teaching our children are white women, 80 to 90%, right? No, there are hardly any Black males in education. So I'm thinking, paying like Black men, because if you talk to Black men who are teachers, most of their apprehensions of becoming a teacher was, I'm not getting any money, and I'm not going to deal with the disrespect and not get any money. So I personally feel that the teachers union, which is heavily Democratic, would be an uproar at that. But I feel like we need to start somehow making incentives for Black men to become teachers, number one. Number two, employment, job trainings for the skills of tomorrow, like literally providing job skills for the tomorrow. Number three, small business disparities, right? So I went to this town hall, and in this town hall, they were talking about how you have these small businesses, and the mayor, Buddy Dyer, kept saying, well, we're going to keep the 18% for women and minorities. Like, he kept using that statistic. And I'm like, we may need more than that, especially for communities of color.
Thank you.
So basically eliminating small business disparities through communication and training of how to make products. I think the problem with many of our businesses is we don't make products. So it's hard to sell things. So that's number three. Number four, housing. That's one of the biggest issues. Housing that doesn't involve gentrification, because what happens is they clean up the community, they create these housing, affordable housing, make it real nice, and then they kick the Black people out.
Yeah, T.I. talked about that.
Yeah. Gentrification is terrible for our community. So we need to deal with that. Number five, criminal justice reform is important for me. The removal from the police state, like private prisons in our communities, the police state, disparities in judges and lawyers that lead to the increment. There was this girl that killed her baby, and she's free. That blonde-haired girl, let have been a Black girl. She would have been under the jail, right?
Yeah.
So it has to do with who the judge is. One judge will make Shawanda be in jail for 5 years, like the lady who put her kid in a wrong school zone, and then another judge will give a rich woman 14 days. All right.
A rich white woman, Felicity Hoffman.
Yeah.
Yep.
Number six, our environment. I think that needs to be. I don't know if we really focus heavily on our environment, but a lot of communities of colors are dumping grounds. You know that, right? Like they're dumping grounds for garbage. They have poor sewage. They get rid of the very important wetlands. For those of us who live in Florida, and so we're subject to the worst type of environmental damage because they don't care about our environment. Number seven, healthcare disparities. Definitely, Obamacare with the public option is so necessary. Universal healthcare. Getting rid of. Do you know that Trump got rid of the predatory lending? The predatory insurance companies. You remember Obama got rid of those? He said you can't, and Trump reversed that. So now there are a lot of people paying into insurance that is totally undercovered, that doesn't cover anything, and they're starting to see the ramifications of that. Number eight, family, like the removal of the incentivization of single parent homes. To create the projects, they they started to say, if you will get more money if there's no male in the house. That's incentivizing single parenthood.
Yep, and it's working.
Yeah, that needs to stop. I agree with everybody have the right to their lifestyle, but I believe in the promotion of the family. I believe in the promotion of husband and wife in the household. And number 9, affirming the First and Second Amendment, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and gun laws. Like I believe in freedom to carry.
You're not that liberal. You're not that liberal.
I'm not liberal. I am not liberal. And there are a lot of Black people. That's what I'm saying. We got to stop acting like we're liberal. We're not. But the problem is we have to choose between being a liberal or a conservative with white supremacy. I'm not Candace Owens, because Candace Owens thinks that the answer to all my problems is this white man. No, yes, I'm pretty conservative, but not for white supremacy's sake. Number 10, eliminating predatory practices, economic practices, like these payday loan companies, these student loans, subprime mortgages that target Black people. I feel like we need to expose those companies for who they are. What's up, Sister Taylor? That's my 10-point plan. I feel like if we come together on these issues and we hash them out and have say, this is what's important to us, and you can keep your liberal agenda to yourself. I don't know what you think.
I agree literally with every point that you made, Maya. And as you said, I don't consider myself. I'm a pragmatic moderate. I'm very liberal with certain things and very conservative with others. I'm a pragmatic moderate.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way I look at it. I don't actually have a 10-point plan. Mine is a few points less than that. But
okay.
I think that in general, the salvation for the Black community is kind of to mirror what the Nigerian American community is doing and what the Jewish American community is, also as well as what the Korean American community is doing. So my points are this. I think first off, we need to treat education as seriously as we treat playing basketball and rapping. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's genetic. Maybe it's just the fact that we view that as our way to get out of the hood. But Black men, we're just very athletic people. I mean, you put us on a football field or a basketball court, and we just the most athletic people out there, just about. I don't know if it's because that's how we view that as our ticket, as our meal ticket out. But for whatever reason, we view that we put so much emphasis on sports that I think we took that same emphasis and put it into science, to engineering, into math or whatever. We would kill the game. And I know we would kill the game because, let's be honest, Black people, we created math. If you take a look at Egypt and those pyramids, we're the very ones who created the pyramids. We're the ones who created calculus and algebra and science and stuff like that. So why are we saying that it's hard when our ancestors are the ones who built it? So we need to start taking education as like it's a religion. We need the Black guys that are 4.0s, they should be the one getting all the girls. Black guys, basically, the Black women who basically are making good grades, those should be the ones who are paraded around our communities and treated like the queens that they are, not the Cardi B's of the world or whatever. We need to take education as seriously, as seriously as we take playing sports. It's as simple as that. That's the first thing I think we should do. Also, by education, I don't necessarily mean just book smarts either. I'm a firm believer in trade school. I work in the construction industry. If half the dudes I knew, if half the guys I hung out with know what the electricians and the plumbers and the carpenters are making who I work with, these brothers are making 6 figures in 6 months. Why? Because they learn skilled labor. In fact, if you basically walk on any construction site and take a look at some of the cars these people drive, these are men who don't have college degrees. They're driving $80,000 and $90,000 pickup trucks for a reason, because you get paid extremely well when you go into the trades. But how many Black men, or how many Black women for that matter, go into learning a trade? So by education, I mean, if college isn't your thing, cool, go become a police officer, go into the Army, join the military, learn a trade. But we need to start taking education and all those various factors into serious, we need to be more serious about that. Secondly, I'm an engineer, and I firmly believe we as a race need to start reading more. I met dudes that got a 1.5 GPA, cats who basically, I knew these guys in high school, and I'm like, this dude was not a very intelligent guy. Now they're a millionaire. Why? Because something happened in their lives, and now they start reading books. And the more people who basically read constantly, not Twilight or nothing like that, I'm talking about like legit self-improvement books, autobiographies, stuff like that. It literally transforms your world. The typical millionaire, get this, I read the statistic, The typical American reads basically 1.5 books a year. So let's say the typical American reads 2 books a year. The typical millionaire reads 50 books a year.
Wow.
So I'll say that again. Typical American, 2 books a year. Typical millionaire, 50 books a year. And you wonder why these guys are learning how to start annuities, or basically when they should basically put their kids in college, what college they should attend, basically how to get the mental strength to basically go through basic training, how to basically start a business. All these stuffs are in books. There are no rules. There are no secrets anymore. Anything you want to learn is on Google and it's inside of a textbook. And honestly, as Black people, if we started reading again like past generations did, it would scare us about some of the things that we would learn. I know because I read a lot. I've read about 80 books this year. And it's literally changed my mindset as far as how I do so many things by the amount of books that I read. Another thing, we need to become financially literate as a group of people. Yeah. I'm from the same community that basically I know what it's like to basically you make jokes about basically having bad credit. You make jokes about buying things that you can't afford. You make jokes about buying things that basically you put it on credit. That's a long-term solution for suicide. As Blacks, we need to get financially literate. And to do that, I think there's 3 easy books anybody can read who's listening to this. I paid $125,000 to get my MBA from Drexel. I learned more about being an entrepreneur, more about business owners, and more about how to build generational wealth by reading these 3 books I did in grad school. It is what it is. The first book I would advise every Black person to read is The Richest Man in Babylon. This book is almost as old as the Bible. It's about 5,000 years old, but it's crazy because good things, they stand the test of time. It's like the pyramids. The information you get inside the Richest Man in Babylon is easily worth the $12 or so that you'll buy it. The second book I advise every Black person to read is The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. I don't even agree with Dave Ramsey on his politics. Right. I'll be the first one to say that. Yeah. Having said that, when it comes to if you are a poor person and you're trying to figure out how you're gonna make ends meet, listen to Dave Ramsey. If you're a 6-figure professional and you basically went to college, listen to Dave Ramsey. If you're a millionaire making with a net worth every year of over $1 million, listen to Dave Ramsey. I honestly could tell anybody, regardless of what your socioeconomic status is, if you want to really learn how to build wealth, generational wealth, follow the precepts of Dave Ramsey. And the last book I would say everybody read, particularly us Black men, because I know how we get when we basically start making some money when we got to college. Read The Millionaire Next Door. Because I know when I was growing up, the guys who I thought had all the money, they were the ones that had the fattest, they had the biggest rides, biggest spinners, they had the loudest systems, they had the nicest cars, they had the prettiest women, and they basically wore the freshest Jordans every other week. But if you read the book, The Millionaire Next Door, it makes you realize that the guys who really are taking, I'm talking about the Deccan millionaires, it's the teacher that lives down the street who started a sewing company. It's the public defendant lawyer basically who lives in the same neighborhood, who lives in the same house for 30 years. It's a dentist down the street who basically drives the same busted Buick that he drove 20 years ago in med school, or 10 years ago to get through med school. So the millionaires that you think of are not these guys basically with the gold rings and the chains and everything and the biggest houses. It's not even the guys driving the newest Teslas or whatever. Typically speaking, it's people who are living beneath their means. So first point I would say, Blacks, we need to start taking education seriously. Second point, we basically need to start reading more. Third point, Blacks need to get financially independent, and I would advise everyone to read those 3 books. Fourth, T.I. talked a lot about this, and so did Killer Mike. We have to start starting businesses in our communities. Every community, the Nigerian American community, the Asian American community, the Jewish community, the white community, they basically build businesses inside their communities, and they hire the people they want to hire, who typically look like them. We got to start doing that again. I can say this as a Black professional, a lot of times, once again, gets back to the whole mindset, you go to college, get a degree, and move out of the hood. How many of us actually were told to start a business? I did not. I mean, literally, I went through 8 years of college. It wasn't until I got to grad school people started saying, why don't you guys start more businesses? When I was in engineering, I love mechanical engineering. It has given me, God, thank you, Jesus, it's given me a great lifestyle. But starting a business was never something we talked about when I was in college. And what pisses me off the most about that is, as an engineer, it gives you the kind of mindset you have to have the problem solve. If you're running a business, it's all business ownership is. It's figuring out a solution and figuring out a way to solve it. So why, as engineers, do we never talk about starting businesses?
Right.
It's something that it took me literally a couple years out of college. I was like, wait a minute, why do I want to work for someone else for the rest of my life? So something I tell all my friends, start a business. I like to work out. I started a personal training business. I'm in the process right now of starting an engineering consulting firm. So everybody, I don't care what you are, how much money you're making, whether you work for the federal government, whether you're already an entrepreneur, whether you're basically whatever. Every Black person needs to start a business. And by doing that, that's one of the tenets of basically building our communities. And that's something I do got to give David Banner, T.I., and Killer Mike about, because them brothers start businesses. Simple as that. You may have issues about how they got their money and where did it come from, or that's all another conversation. But right now, those Negroes are starting businesses, and it's basically what our community needs. Because I'm a firm believer, if you want to stop Crips and Bloods from shooting each other, if you want to stop Gangsters Disciples and Vice Lords and GDs from basically gangbanging, give them a job. If you want to stop MS-13 from killing people, give them a job. If you want to basically bring down crime, give people jobs. Because typically speaking, most guys who have an opportunity to make legit money, they would rather do that if it's a large enough sum than basically selling drugs and doing something that they know is going to get them killed or send them to prison. So you want to bring down crime, create a job. Also, I think blacks, next point, blacks, we got to start voting in every election period. I'm not just talking about occasionally every 4 years for the president. We got to start getting involved with these local elections, these regional elections, these county elections, and definitely in the presidential elections. We should be voting typically every 6 to 9 months. There's something on the ballot that basically affects you. If you take a look at why so many police officers are getting away with murdering unarmed, innocent black men and women, it's because the communities that support cops, they vote. The communities that support us, we occasionally show up and vote every now and then. And there's so many different things. All the progress Obama made as far as healthcare reform, Trump got rid of as soon as he got in office. All the progress Obama made as far as prison reform and immigration reform, Trump got rid of it as soon as he could. So I don't care how much money you make or basically how financially stable you are. If you get the wrong politician in office, they can literally stop their fingers, get rid of that. So as blacks, we need to basically vote so we can protect the progress that we make. Next point. Black scholars, we got to start giving back more often, I think. I'm guilty of this myself. Sometimes you get tied up with your girls. Sometimes you get tied up with your family. Sometimes you get tied up with your church. Sometimes you get tied up with life, basically. It's one of your businesses. And you forget that little Keisha on the corner or Ray Ray in the hood or Boogaloo or Marcus or whoever, they need to start, I'm serious, they need to start seeing guys like us. I became an engineer for one reason. My older brother was getting into engineering, and I saw extremely attractive black women that were engineers. I saw really cool brothers who had swag that were engineers, and these dudes was black. So I was like, wait a minute. They came from the same environment that I came from. They basically looked like me. Some of them came from worse environments, and these dudes are making 6-7 figures now. Why, if they did engineering, why can't I? And it's something very powerful, because I do this even now, about walking into a classroom with little black boys and girls at like 6 or 7, and he say, what do you guys think I do for a living? And they'll say, you're a lawyer, or they'll say, oh, you probably work out, or you play basketball or whatever. I say, no, I'm an engineer. You see a little twinkle in their eyes. They're just like, wow, you're an engineer? How'd you do that? And it literally changes the way that they view themselves. It changes the way that the trajectory they can have in their lives. So I think honestly, this as black people, we got to start basically getting back into that mindset where we just start giving back to our communities as much as possible. And lastly, we're both religious people. The Bible says it best, what shall a prophet do? In other words, I think as black people, we have to get back into church. It just seems to me that in the past, our grandparents were a little more religious. It seems to me like in the past, like our parents were just a little more religious. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I mean, we can start all the businesses we want. We can basically make all the money we want. We can marry the most attractive people. At the end of the day, if you lose your soul, it doesn't mean anything. And I honestly think that if more of us kind of got into the church, it would do two things. So one, the local black church anyway, is completely tied into the communities around it. So if you want to know what's going on in the hood, go to church. Simple as that. Go to the barbershops. That's where our people are. And when you basically get involved with your local communities and your local churches or whatever, you'd be amazed basically at some of the benefits it can have. I was reading Obama's book, I think Dreams from My Father, and surprisingly, he got his start as a speaker at black churches. He got his start as far as being a community organizer at black churches. And I believe Dr. Martin Luther King did as well. Yeah. I think as black people, we need to basically get more into church. So those are my points, Maya. I think that a lot of it is going to be business ownership, getting education, being financially literate, giving back in our communities, and basically just kind of realizing that no one is going to come save us. I think as black people, we have to realize that no other community is going to come save us. Nobody's going to come into the inner cities. Nobody's going to come, no government program is going to come basically say, okay, I'm going to give you people all this money. So it doesn't work that way. if Blacks want to save ourselves, we got to look in the mirror and do it. No one cares about us. No one cares happening to our ancestors. No one cares what's happening right now, to be honest. We got to save ourselves. I think the quicker we realize that no one's going to come save us, we got to save ourselves, I think the better off we're going to be as a group of people.
Yeah.
So those are my 7 points, I would say.
Woo! Good job. Awesome. Guys, what a beautiful conversation we just had. I feel like we have to have more of these conversations, and then we have to start putting plans into actions. Like, all those points that you made are awesome, and we have to start putting our plans into action. And if we do that, I like what Killer Mike said. 7 years after Reconstruction, we have the land, we have the skill. We have to stop being covetous and seeking after them, and we just need to keep our stuff in order, get our stuff in order, and use our skill. It's one thing I know about Black people, and it's we are humans. We have our humanity, and I'm telling you, that is going to be a very important commodity in the future. Just having a spiritual, mental, and physical perfection. We got the spiritual, we got the physical. Right? We go to church. We're church people. We need to do it more, like you said. We're definitely physical, but now we got to get the intellectual. And if we have all three, we will be a force to be unmatched. So, thank you so much, Christopher. I really appreciate the conversation that we had. There's a lot of people, well, not really a lot of people talking, but the people are watching. And guys, I'm not going to be able to answer your questions because we're 43 minutes in, but I really appreciate you guys for joining in and watching with us. All right. You guys have a good night.
Yeah, thanks, Maya. I appreciate it. And let's do this more often, okay? I agree. We got to come up with some solutions. We can't save the world as simple as that, but I mean, you can definitely save a few kids every year. I truly believe that. So yeah, let's talk more often and let's put something on. Let's put plans into action.
Absolutely. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate it.